How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the second episode of the Simply Sport podcast. With myself, obviously, Simply, this is my second time doing this, and I thank you all for anyone that listened to the first podcast, or watched it on YouTube as well, or even was involved in the live stream. Obviously, this podcast here, we do stream live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Simply Spud. It was absolutely class last one. I'd like to thank everyone that did watch the video or listen to the podcast. We were hitting like nearly 100 impressions on the first ever podcast of this. So thank you all so much for your support. That honestly means a mass. It's a bit surreal, to be honest, if I'm being fully real with you, because it was just mad, the fact that I was trying something completely different, which is different to all the other content that I've ever produced, and it hit the ground running, and it's made me more keen to do get more out there to you. And obviously we also have the other podcasts coming through as well, which is going to be the general Simply Sport one, not the sport one, the general podcast, which will be coming later in the week, and I might have some nice interviews for you as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But if you want to hear any of the other news as well, we do have a Discord, which you can get via the Twitter for the podcast, which is the at the Simply Sport Pod, so make sure you try and get involved there as well. But without further ado, we're going to crack straight into this, and we've got a lot to cover this week, because for a week of sport, so much has happened. Like, so much has happened. But also, we can't ignore the events that are happening in the world at the same time as well. Obviously, there is the devastating news of what's happened out in Ukraine with Russia obviously invading, and this has also affected sport massively as well. There's been some really nice gestures by various different leagues, teams, all sorts, but there has also been sanctions made by their governing bodies as well. Obviously, we heard just recently earlier on today about the FA suspending all Russian teams from various competitions. Particularly, I think it was like Spartak Moscow being suspended from like the Europa League. So this is this has kind of made a bit of controversial opinion and whatnot on what people are thinking. They don't feel that the measures were necessarily harsh enough on these ones. So yeah, on this one, I wanted to talk maybe just a little bit about the fact that these sanctions happen, and there's been a bit of a debate on Mazepin in F1. Obviously, the fact that he is from Russia, and a lot of people are saying that the fact that he shouldn't be allowed to race in F1, it's torn me a little bit on this one, because I get their reasoning behind it, but I feel that necessarily this is not necessarily being done for the right reasons. He doesn't stay in Russia, Mazepin. He obviously he races for Haas, which, let's face it, he struggled very heavily last season, and going into this season, he's not looks like he's doing a huge amount better, just judging off some of the results that are coming through at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him there. But in my personal view, I don't think he should be taken out of F1. He's been very committed to Haas, and he's also helped. I believe his father has helped the Haas team quite a bit as well, which also kind of helped him get his place. Obviously, that caused a lot of controversy with him getting his place in the Haas team, getting it into F1, because you do have to have a lot of money to get into this sport. But he helped the Haas team quite a bit that way. So in my opinion, I don't feel he should be taken out. You look at the likes of the FA taking Spartak Moscow out and all sorts. That was you got to think, with football teams going to different countries, particularly if Spartak Moscow were to come to Europe and whatnot. Obviously, you're bringing a lot of people over from what at the moment is a bit of a hostile country. It's a country at war. That there's a lot of risk involved with that. There's a lot of risk involved with that. With Mazepin, there isn't that risk, because he doesn't stay in Russia. He's not necessarily a massive travelling support coming, so you don't need to worry necessarily about that health and safety risk. with him. He's fully focused on the sport and trying to make the sport the best that he can. I personally feel that he shouldn't be taken out. But that is my personal views. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you comment below. Let me know as well what you think about the whole Mazepin situation, whether or not he should be taken out of F1 just because he comes from Russia. And like I said, I don't think personally he should be, but it's each their own. People have got various different views on it, but no, definitely not for me. Right, team. So we are going to be looking at this week's football results. There have been massive results. What a week in football it has been. Obviously, starting off with the European matches that happened during the week. I mean, there's just been some ridiculous results and some outstanding performances as well. Now, in the predictions in the Discord that we did absolutely awful at this. Like they were really bad. I think out of I think it was like 10 or so that we did. I think there was only maybe like 3 that were right. They were not great at all. To be fair, I didn't give a draw option, and we did end up with a few draws, so that's partially on me. That is partially on me, the fact that I didn't give the draw option. So going forward, we will be having that draw option as well for people to predict what the results are going to be. So yes, looking at this week, so obviously Chelsea winning 2-0 against Lille. I don't think Lille necessarily posed a particularly big threat in that game. They managed to get David on the ball a little bit later on, but it wasn't particularly great. Juventus Villarreal, Vlahovic scoring like his first minute of Champions League football is just kind of mad. But then they did drop off apparently afterwards. I didn't watch the game, but I was told that they did kind of drop off a little bit afterwards, and Villarreal obviously got themselves back in it. But yeah, that was that was it basically. They weren't. Apparently, it was a bit of a drab game. I didn't watch it myself, but yeah, it wasn't great. Look at the Wednesday wise, we had Premier League action and Champions League action. So one of the big talking points right there was Burnley beating Tottenham, and Antonio Conte's comments after it were a little bit worrying, particularly if you're a Spurs fan. Was obviously they had a much better result at the weekend there, but it just came across a little bit bratty to me, if I'm being honest. The fact that he was spitting the dummy a little bit, the fact that he didn't have all the players he wanted allegedly. So, it just wasn't great. Wasn't great if you're a Spurs fan from that point of view. Obviously, as well, Liverpool winning 6-0 against Leeds. Leeds, who conceded the most ever from in I think it was a month. It just it was mad. And you know what? From my personal view, I wasn't surprised that Bielsa had to leave the role. Obviously, I think I do get a lot of Leeds fans' perspectives on Bielsa and what he done for Leeds and how he done so much for them while playing a really good style of football. But if Leeds are relegated, they lose. I think it's like something like 140 million. They lose 140 million, and yet you're wanting to keep a manager who is not going to try and prevent that from happening. Not to his full capability, because you're not going to like. It is hard to explain. It's like the fact he was so strict to his style of play, and he's not willing to kind of grind out a 1-0 result. It is very naive and arrogant, to be honest, for a manager to do that. I don't think that should be praised in any way, because if you lose 140 million at a club, there's going to be sackings, there's going to be repercussions from that, and everyone's going to be happy as Larry because they're not in the Premier League. No, of course not. A lot of people are going to be really angry with it, and a lot of people are going to be pointing the finger, and Bielsa would be the one to be pointing the finger at. I like the kind of maybe way he's left, because Leeds fans are talking about all the positives that he's done for the club. They're talking about all the positives, and that is a nice way to kind of go out. But it's not great at the same time, because he's left them in a really difficult position, which they're going to struggle to come back from. I know a few Leeds fans, and a lot of them are kind of so it's like most of them were Bielsa about out. One or two were at the same time were just like I would like to keep him because I believe in that he was going to keep getting him out of it, but obviously they've been hit with a lot of injuries as well. But partially these injuries are also down to how Bielsa plays and the demands he puts on the players, which doesn't help their injury issues. He's pushing a lot on players that are coming back from injury, getting injured again. So it's not great that way as well. So it's a bit of a sad one seeing Bielsa leave the Premier League, but I'm sure it won't be long until he finds another club. There was lots of talks of the fact that he would do a really good job at Manchester United. I don't know if he necessarily would go there, but wow, I think he would work at United personally. They have players there to actually work in the system that he wants to play in. It's a hard one, but I think he would do well there personally. That's my decision. I don't know about what you guys think. Anyone in chat, do you think Bielsa would work at United? Do you think that would be a good fit? Do you think he could play a style of football that would get Manchester United fans happy again? Again, as well, if any of you are wanting to say anything live on stream, make sure that you do go jump in the phone in section on the Discord, and we'll get you involved a little bit later on. But yeah, so it's we'll talk about United a little bit later on, but yeah, it's sad to see Bielsa go, but it is what it is on that one. That is football, and there are sackings. But yeah, I mean, okay, we'll talk about Manchester United a little bit there. Atletico Madrid versus Manchester United. United were not great in that game, right? They weren't. I was massively impressed with Atletico's kind of pressing game. I mean, the João Felix goal was magnificent. What a header that was. The cross was beautiful, but the header was even better. Kind of had slightly Van Persie vibes to it, how it comes off the post and goes in. Beautiful goal there. And in Manchester United, in all honesty, they've stolen a draw. They've stolen a draw there. It wasn't really deserved in my opinion, but Atletico did have a record of conceding goals. That will have a big record of conceding goals, which is why they haven't performed massively in the league. But Elanga scoring obviously was huge for United. It keeps the tie alive. Going back to Old Trafford, and we'll wait and see. It's a hard one to call, but I still feel Atletico will in my opinion, will knock out United if they play the same kind of football at Old Trafford. But that, again, it's kind of my opinion. There is no away goals in the competitions league, so it makes it up for grabs for either team. Same with Benfica, Ajax, obviously 2-2 there as well. I believe Ajax went 2-0 up if I'm not mistaken. Let me just quickly check that. No, they went 1-0 up, and then yeah. But either way, it was still they took the lead twice, and Benfica came back both times to equalise. So that tie is also open for grabs as well. Where that's going to go, I do not know. Let's look at some of the other fixtures as well. We've had Arsenal Wolverhampton, which was obviously, as an Arsenal supporter, I was a bit nervous coming in. I didn't really know how we were going to do. The goal we scored against them the week before was a bit lucky, but we scored and beat them at the Molineux. This game, I really didn't know how it was going to go, and when we scored, I was like, oh my god, not this again. But Pepe, a little bit of magic. Coming off the bench, it was a really good move to get him on, because I just felt that we needed him in. I don't know why, I just had a feeling that Pepe was going to come and do something, and he did. His turn and finish was good. How he got so much space, I have no idea. I have no idea how he got so much space, but listen, it was a good finish as well from him. And then obviously Lacazette's goal was a bit lucky. It's gone down as an own goal, but it was a great team performance overall from Arsenal on that one. But yeah. Right, and we're going to look at the Europa League as well. So looking at the Europa League as well, we have some huge games that happened here. Well, actually, we just got to look at Europe in general here. Because first result I'm going to talk about is not one that a lot of people are going to want to hear. It's Celtic crashing out of Europe. I watched that game, and Celtic were absolutely god awful. Wow, they were bad. Wow, they were bad. Yeah, they were not great in that at all. Um, the fact that when McGregor came on, he changed the game for Celtic, and all of a sudden they posed a threat, which he just didn't do for the entire game. Some of the goals actually both scored weren't bad, but like the just overall intensity from Celtic is like I'm just like if they just stay in the tie, and they just weren't. So I get obviously he was prioritising the league, but then you look ahead of how they did in the league and they drew at the weekend. So why not go for it in Europe? And not in my opinion, why not go for it? You still have that points gap. Take a risk, go for it because Rangers did, and they got a result that is historic for them. Because looking at the Rangers game, knocking out Borussia Dortmund, and what was it, 6-4? The final result. It's just madness. Is absolute madness. You know, Giants in Germany, Borussia. Okay, they haven't done amazing this season in the league, but it's still a huge team. A team that was in the Champions League, they've knocked out. It's huge for Scottish football as well. Huge for Scottish football as well. You know, both Celtic and Rangers doing well in Europe is something. Is something that it helps Scottish football when they are. Um, it helps Scottish football when both of them are doing well in Europe because it does filter down eventually to the teams lower down in the league, like Livingston, my team. You know, it does filter down. So we just kind of need to wait and see how things unfold for Rangers as they go further into the league. I try to remember what team they've got. I'm just looking at it now. I believe it was Red Star Belgrade they got. Yeah, but Red Star Belgrade they got in the league. So we'll have to wait and see how they do there. But there's no reason Rangers can't go even a lot further in the tournament. You know, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We'll have to wait and see what. So a lot going on this week. Obviously, looking in chat there, obviously Jack saying about how if Leeds do go down, players like Rafinha, you know, they won't be staying at Leeds. I think Rafinha is actually on a decent contract, so it's going to take a fair bit of money to get him out. But I mean that's money that people will actually be willing to pay because it does help Leeds at the same time. And you know, I think Rafinha will be looking. It seems to be a fair bit of respect from Rafinha to Leeds, so I think he'll look for a good club that will pay the money. And you know, honestly, he could move to a good club. The question is, what club? What club do you think Rafinha could move to? Could he move to Liverpool, or is he not needed there? You know, could he move to Liverpool? Could he move to Man U? I doubt it. You know, it's Spurs is one that Andy's just pointed out there. Potentially, absolutely. I don't feel they've had really like Lucas is maybe their most solid right mid, but then again, Kulovetski's come in and done a decent job. So, who knows there as well. So it's a hard one to say. I think Spurs actually you shouting it out there is a good potential one. But I also feel maybe the likes of West Ham, Wolves are other potential suitors for him. Leicester as well. Leicester will probably spend quite a bit of money next season to kind of make up for the poor one that they've had. Definitely. But yeah, guys, let's. I'm gonna start the phone ins. So if you're wanting to get involved, make sure that you are jumping in as well. I'm going to be talking obviously as we go through this, but if you've got any nice points to raise and you want to win yourself a tenner, get yourself involved in the phone in through the Discord, which you can get through the Twitter, which is at the Simply Sport Pod. Or if anyone is in the live stream at twitch.tv/Simply Spud, it's !podcast, and you get the link there. So we're going to go into what is probably going to be our first call of the day. Who is we're going to be going to Andy, who is a Celtic supporter. So here we go. Andy, how we doing, mate? How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm not bad at all. Welcome to the show. So obviously, Andy, you've got probably about kind of like 7-8 odd minutes. What you wanted to talk about today?
The Jesse Marsh appointment today.
Okay, yeah, cool. So I don't know a huge amount about Jesse Marsh myself. What could you shed light on this one?
I just keep seeing the same tweets on Twitter about his appointment, saying, it's a backwards move. Imagine sacking Bielsa just to bring him in." But Jesse Marsh is one of the managers who, when Celtic were looking for a manager, was one I wanted to bring in to Celtic.
Yeah,
because you see what, like, for example, that Salzburg team he had. You had Haaland, Adeyemi. They were performing at such a high level, high intensity. They were
Mm.
wiping the floor. Obviously, domestically, there's a big, absolute massive gap
Mm.
in the Austrian league. But in terms of Europe, you see where Salzburg are today. That is because of Marsh.
Yeah, no,
Obviously,
you raise a perfect point there. Obviously, he's kind of cultured the fact that Haaland in particular making them into the kind of players that we've seen now. So he's got them at a very early stage. So he's used to working with big characters, and definitely
yeah,
would suit the likes of Leeds. Leeds are needing a manager that can get the nitty gritty done. Which is the part which Bielsa wouldn't do, and this is something that potentially very well could do. When things are backs against the wall, he could be the man to get them out of the position they're in. But we've seen it happen before. Obviously, managers come in, it doesn't quite work out. Not quite the Sam Allardyce is. I mean, that would have been one of the worst appointments ever. Sam Allardyce to Leeds. What a downgrade that would have been. Route One football, whatnot. I would have been shocking, but I know you definitely. He gets Andy Carroll in from Reading, and look what happens. But yeah, no, definitely. Anything else to share on Leeds wise or anything else?
I'd go on to Celtic now. Now, I'm making the point about Maeda. Everyone is going about how Maeda's poor, he's this, he's that. People have got to remember about Maeda. He's played 40 plus games in Japan this season. He's played a full season in Japan. He's played the domestic trophies. He's played the internationals for Japan for the qualifiers for the World Cup, as well as the Olympics. Now,
Mm.
players at the end of a season usually get a 6 to 8 week break before pre-season starts.
But they're thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, Maeda's had 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
break,
Yeah.
so there could be an element of him being burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
which is why he's not performing to the level he can. So, with all of the Celtic fans and other fans watching the game on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, we're thinking, well, he's not. What does he offer? I am not going to make my judgment about Maeda till next season. Till he's played a full season, good
Yeah.
condition. Because there is a player in there that you don't score 25 or you don't finish top goal scorer in Japan for no reason.
Yeah, no,
You
I mean,
don't.
obviously we've got to take into account maybe differences in the league. A
Yeah,
point was brought
physicality.
up by David Martindale a while back about because Livingston, particularly beginning of the season, kept getting a lot of injuries, and all the injuries were for players that had played in the lower leagues of England. And the reason that they were getting injured so much is because when they come up to the Scottish Premiership, because the league is a lot more physical, you need to do more work on your strength than necessarily your speed. So therefore, a lot of people do get injured because there's a lot more muscle work getting done. So particularly, upper body, legs. You're having to do a lot more strength training than maybe what you would do at other clubs. Now, people think, what you're talking about, people go in the gym a lot more and go to the gym every club level, and which is true, but it was an issue that came up, and it depending on which league you go to. Obviously, if you get 40 hours of training a week, each club uses that slightly differently. In the Scottish League, particularly, most Scottish clubs will spend more time in the gym doing strength training to kind of boost their kind of overall physicality, and which is kind of maybe why Livingston get the bad name for hammer for Royals a little bit, but it is something that happens, and we could be looking at this with Maeda there. Maybe he's just, it's a little bit of an adjustment there. Obviously, you've got the kind of Greek striker you have right now, and yeah, he was made for Livingston away, as a lot of Celtic fans have said. He very well could be the difference going into this Sunday as well. Obviously, Livingston Celtic at the Totally Macaroni Arena on Sky. I will be at that game, don't you worry. So it could be made for that. So we need to wait and see how he does there. Striker wise, you've kind of struggled a little bit since maybe Edward Griffiths is kind of. Obviously Edward was in decline a little bit last season, which is maybe one of the reasons why you did miss out in the league. And Griffiths hasn't been good for a while now, so you'd kind of be missing that X factor striker. Obviously you've got some good players in it. Was it Adaba and Jota?
Yeah, Abada and Jota.
Abada, that's it. Yeah, looking really good, really good players. So I'm a big fan of both of them. Yeah,
Abada's definitely, I think, maybe been one of the signings of the season.
Oh, he's quality.
We're just turned 20. and he's got over 25 goal contributions a season already from winger.
He is
So
quality. Because I remember what was it? It was his goal against the Rangers where he just kind of floats inside Tavernier and doesn't even know he's there, and he did the exact same movement against Bodo, I noticed, and he almost got a goal there as well. So he's just a sneaky little player, but he looks a quality sort, definitely there. Anything else to add just before we move on?
One last point before going for Sunday. I do think that if we can somehow, we need to break this duck because we haven't won at Livy since like 2007, so it's been a long time. But I think if Giacomakis is back fit, hopefully he's back for St Mirren on Wednesday. That's the main one.
Is he injured at the moment?
He had an illness at the weekend, which is why he didn't feature against Hibs.
Okay, cool.
Kind of like what happened to Juranovic. He had a bug or whatever. But Giacomakis was one player that after he missed that penalty against Livy in the 93rd minute, I did kind of write him off. But honestly, he came back. He's proved us wrong. Scoring goals for fun at this moment. And he had something different to the team. We are used to just like bombing players like over the top balls for players to run onto, but he gives us that kind of physical presence. Something like Samaras did. We've not had a player like a target man. We've not had a target man in absolute years. So I think with him back in the team, I would also start O'Reilly over Rogic. Rogic is in very poor form. But I think Sunday could hopefully be the change at the Tony Macaroni Arena in terms of recent results.
Well, hopefully not. But we'll wait and see. I mean, it's always good having that target man as well. Obviously, Samaras, what a player he was. Especially at his prime, he was just ridiculous at times.
Man for the big occasion.
Oh, he really was. I was a big fan of him. His big long hair and all. He was a player, and Celtic haven't had that really. I mean, fair as you say that, Dembele wasn't exactly bad at the kind of target man feature. You could put the ball up to him, and he had a decent physical presence about him, as long as a good change of pace. So he was able to do it. Edward, maybe not quite as much. He was a bit more to feet, but it's still having that physical presence up front is definitely something that I think every team needs. You need that plan B. You can't always, this is where we come alter back to Leeds slightly. You need that plan B for when things aren't going your way. Maybe the conditions of the pitch aren't what you need, and you have to get the ball up the pitch as quick as you can. And that's where Giacomakis obviously brings you that extra element that you didn't maybe have before. But very, very good call, Andy. Obviously, you're now in the running, obviously, for you're very much in the running for the tenor. I'll call the podcast. Well, thank you very much, mate, and I'll catch you later on.
Catch you later.
Cheers. So, thank you very much, Andy, obviously, for popping on. Now, if he is the only caller today, he does win the tenner as well. So, if anyone else is wanting to get involved, make sure you get yourself in the waiting room, in the Discord. Very, very good call from Andy, that one. So, absolutely. If Livingston get top 6, I might retire. Well, I mean, you know what? We got top 6 last season, but as soon as we got into the top 6, we were actually 5th when we got in, and then our form dropped, and that's when we went on a run of, I think it was like 9 or so games without a win, which was really bad, which is really bad, right? It's not great at all. So here's hoping for Livingston they can pull that one there, but. Yeah, guys, obviously, if you want to get in the phone in, obviously, make sure you pop in there. We will be stopping the phone in soon. But thank you again, Andy, for popping in. It was a good wee call, that, and I'll definitely be clipping a few things for that, so it'll be on the socials. But you get yourself out there. Yeah, guys, so, looking at the Scottish League wise, I mean, it is tight. It is very, very. You know what? Let me go to this screen now and show you. For anyone that's on YouTube, you'll be able to see this as well, and we'll break this down. But don't worry, guys, on Spotify, I will be talking us through this as well a little bit. So we're looking at the table at the moment. Obviously, there is that 3-point gap between Celtic and Rangers, which was maintained at the weekend. And you look at the 2 draws there, I've just killed it for Rangers there. 2 draws in a row now in the league. It's just it's not great viewing if you're a Rangers supporter, but great viewing if you're a Celtic. You have that cushion which you didn't have before, and what you do also have, which is really, really good, is you have a really good goal difference. like the goal difference is class. Even if you do not win against Livingston, you're in a great position. You're in a great position. I would not worry too much. I fancy us to beat obviously St Mirren going forward. So yeah, and it do us a favour as well, to be fair. So yeah, I fancy us to beat St Mirren. Rangers going forward, it's a hard one to say. Aaron Ramsey is looking like he's going to be coming back into the fold soon. So we need to wait and see how he impacts the Rangers squad. Allegedly he wasn't fully available before, but again we'll be waiting to see what happens there. So looking at the kind of table wise, the points gap between 4th to 10th is only 5 points. Between 4th to 10th, it's 5 points. Let that just sink in for a second, right? Now, European spots are Champions League. Now, Sky actually has it outdated here. I believe Champions League is first place is group stage, second place is qualification. Someone in chat might be able to correct me a little bit on this. I believe the first place is group stage, second place is qualification, third is Europa. Then I believe first place is the Muller load. Yeah, absolutely. it's where you want to be. Go on, Glasser. And I believe 4th and 5th are the Conference League. If I'm not mistaken, it's like qualification for them. There's no European for 6. I mean, that was where Livingston finished last season. But, aye. First place is Bournemouth, second qualify. Third is Europa League qualifiers. And then 4th is conference. So 4th is the last European place, which is absolutely where Livingston could finish. I mean, we have beaten every single team that is that is potentially in the top 6. So we have every right to think that we can get points there and get in the 4th. You know, Hibs have not been good this season. They shouldn't be there, in my opinion. Motherwell as well have not been great. They're in one of the poorest run of forms ever. Beat Rangers then, hurry up. Well, listen, mate, we'll definitely give it a bash. I mean, you have actually got more losses this season, but Rangers' ability to finish off a game has not been great this season. Obviously, with the likes of their 7 draws, is what has put them further down. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who wins the Scottish Cup? Hearts. Hearts win the Scottish Cup. There, I've said it. There's your answer, Chegg. Hearts are winning the Scottish Cup. I've said it. Why have I said that? Because they beat Livingston. Agreed. Yeah, here's hoping, eh? In fact, I've got a lot of pals that are Hearts supporters, so I kind of hope maybe for their sake, they get that. But aye. But yeah, it's looking very, very tight, and I've got to say, I mean, Aberdeen are definitely the biggest underperforming team this season. Debatably with St Johnstone after their performance last season, but Aberdeen have just not been at it at all. They haven't won in the last 6 games. It's been absolutely madness. And they've got another tough one going into this week as well. I believe actually on the Wednesday they play Rangers, so that's going to be another. They play Rangers at Ibrox, which is, I can't really see them getting a result there. Rangers obviously need to make up the difference. It's madness. I mean, I'll tell you what is a weird stat, right? And it is weird. The only teams with a positive goal difference are Hearts, Rangers, and Celtic. How does that work? How does the only teams in the league with a positive goal difference turn out to be the top 3? Everyone else has negative goal difference. How does that happen? Right? What's going on in the Scottish League that's a thing? Like, what even? Noticed that the other week. I know, it's bizarre how every team, I mean, the closest obviously is Hibs with 2. Livingston are also close. The Aberdeen as well are actually close. Hearts are very good defensively. I mean, you have still shipped 29 goals, but it's not many more than what Rangers have. Livingston used to be known for their defensive resilience, but they've still conceded 34 goals, which is better than Motherwell, which is above them. I mean, Motherwell needs to turn it around at the moment. That they are in absolute free fall at the moment. I need to wait and see what happens with them. With Suter and Halkett fit with Gordon behind them, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big fan of obviously Halkett, as you know already, and Suter as well is good, but obviously he's heading to Rangers, so we need to wait and see what happens there. I reckon he gets booed when he actually goes to Rangers. Definitely. But yeah, guys, absolutely. We've I'm about to start the phone in entries team. So if no one else is wanting to get in the phone ins, that's fine. If anyone is, let me know. Jump into the phone in waiting room. Get yourself involved. If you have anything decent to kind of contribute, it can be about anything. So obviously, maybe you want to bring up points about the Scottish League. Maybe you want to bring up points about in the English Premier League. It could be anything that you think. Maybe even like it doesn't even have to be football related. You can bring up the likes of Josh Taylor fight if any of you watched that. Maybe you've got views on where people will finish. We are going to be looking at the relegation battle soon. So if anyone wants to give maybe their opinions on the relegation battle, please feel free to give thoughts on that one. Andy's bringing up a rumoured pre-contract with Dundee United for Alan Forrest at Livingston. Obviously, Alan Forrest has been subject to a lot of talks because a lot of people have been after him. And honestly, if he leaves Livingston, like, I don't think he's actually going to Dundee United, right? If I'm being fully honest, I don't think it's going to happen because Dundee United do have a fair few quality players, and I don't think he fits that. I think it's very much a Stephen Lawless move to Motherwell. For anyone that understands that move, he's a player. I feel it feels like he's bigger than the club slightly. I don't know. This is vibes of what I get from the outside. Obviously, I'm not involved in Livingston Football Club, so I can't fully comment on how this looks. But from my point of view, I don't see it happening personally. I just don't see it happening with him moving to Dundee United. But it could happen. It could. I think it's going to depend on where Dundee United finish, whether or not he does decide or not. You'll get more money at Dundee United than what we will at Livingston if Livingston don't finish in the European spots. I mean, it'd be mad. Imagine Livingston in Europe. Imagine our plastic pitch in the Europa League. Imagine the Tony Macaroni Arena in Europe. Imagine it. It's happening. Deal with it. Call us hammer throwers all you like. We're going on a European tour. I'm called it. It's happening. Deal with it. It's happening. Yep. I don't care. It's happening. Livingston on tour, man. Livingston on tour. Big Jason Holt's going on another European tour. Oh man! Speaking about Livingston, what are you gonna say, Reese? What are you gonna say? He said speaking about what a season Bruce Anderson is having. I mean, what a deal that was from Livingston. Livingston got money and Bruce Anderson, right, for J. Emmanuel Thomas, who is currently at Aberdeen. So it was Aberdeen that offered us Bruce Anderson. Like he was offered on a free from Aberdeen and money for Jet, right? Which is one hell of a deal because you look at what Bruce Anderson's done for Livingston, and the fact we got money for him as well is just it's mad. It's actually mad. But I have to point out to you all as well this, right? Because I do have a fair bit of respect for J. Emmanuel Thomas because he obviously was part of he was part of Arsenal team as well. I've got a lot of time for him, and when I think it was the last couple months of the SPL, which is what got his move, I should add. He was one of the most talented players I've ever seen in the SPL. Yeah, I'm like genuinely. When he was fully on it, right, which I should add took nearly like 6 to 8 months to get there, right? 6 to 8 months to get there, but those last like kind of 3 months were absolutely magical, right? Right? You're buying him for you bought if I could have those 3 months again, I would have it because he was what hell of a player he was in those kind of 3 months. Genuinely, he was he was just it was actually mad. He kind of reminded me of a slower Henri, right? He's nowhere near as fast, but he kind of reminded me of a slower Henri. He even scored a goal that was very much like Henri's goal against Manchester United, the way he kind of flicks it up and then volleys it into the top corner. It was just mind blowing. He was some sort of player. And it kind of made me a bit sad the fact that obviously he moved on because he was an unreal player. He really, really was. So, yeah, he's not succeeded at Aberdeen, but it is what it is. It is what it is on that one. And these things happen. People move on to bigger clubs and think they're going to get a better one. So, yeah. Do you think it's time for Alan McGregor to call it a day with his mistakes causing Rangers to drop more points? No. If you saw him against Dortmund, he still got it this season at least. Also thought Joe Hart after this stick and doubts at the start of the season, he's proved that there is wrong. Yeah, absolutely, I do agree with that one. Joe Hart has been a massive influence in Celtic getting up. I think he was a bit overconfident at the start, which is what leads to mistakes, because it happens to nearly everyone that I see that comes from England. They come in, they think the Scottish League's going to be a piss easy league, and in reality, it's not. Well, it's not as technically gifted as the Premier League. It isn't. No one can ever say that it's the exact same technically gifted as the Premier League, but it is a challenging league, and a lot of people come in with a lot of overconfidence and kind of like thinking they're going to walk in and absolutely reignite their careers or something like that in the Scottish League, and reality doesn't happen. There was more successes of people moving from the Scottish League to the English leagues than there is of the opposite. That is genuine fact. That's not that, like, I could probably list quite a few. You know, you got like Joey Barton that came in and he got absolutely ruined coming in. James McCarthy has been awful. Like he's still at Celtic, but God, he is awful. When he came on against Livingston, he was an absolute ghost. I didn't even know he was on the pitch. He's just like absolute nightmare. Yeah. McCarthy was a Desmond signing as well, as was Scales. Scales, when he played against Bodo, he was one of the worst left backs I've ever seen. Like, that was one of the worst performances of left back I'd ever seen. Nothing he did worked. Nothing he did worked. I felt a bit sorry for him, to be honest, because he just kind of seemed to be like, he's one of these players that, like, just get him off the pitch, like, protect him a little bit, get him off the pitch at halftime, just get someone else on. And he just never did it. So I felt a bit sorry for him a little bit because he's having a nightmare and he's making it worse by keeping him on the pitch, to be honest. But it is what it is in that one. Rightio team, so we're back to the Premier League. You know, we've had a lot of massive results happen in the last couple of weeks, and the relegation fight has completely changed. You know, Norwich were having it on a decent run of form, and we're looking pretty decent, to be fair, at one point, but they've kind of gone backwards again and are now still sitting bottom of the Premier League, but at least in a slightly better kind of frame of mind than what they were before. And then one of the reasons why they're sitting so low is because teams above them have actually done rather well. I think if it wasn't for the teams above them doing better, I think they would still they might actually have crawled the way out. Definitely, the teams above them have performed rather well, and teams that have now creeped into the relegation fight are the likes of Brentford, Leeds, Everton. Are a bit of a shock, to be honest, because they are only 5 points away from bottom. Like, Jesus, man, Jesus! Like, Everton could be relegated. They actually could. That Everton are a team that should not be near relegation. Like, let's be fully honest here. Of all the teams that I've mentioned there, Everton are one of them actually shouldn't. Particularly given the team that they've got. and the support they've got and the stadium plans as well that they've got, they should not be in relegation fight, but they are, right? And I do kind of hope that Frank Lampard gets them out of this situation, but Jesus, he's got a lot of work to do. And don't get me wrong, Everton and Burnley have 2 games on hand on the teams that are around them at the moment. And so, like, even just winning those games in hand could change the table for them as well. I mean, Burnley are in a decent run of form at the moment. Winning the last 2 of their last 3 games in the Premier League is obviously a good turn of form for them. Obviously, beating Spurs was a huge one as well. Drawing at the weekend against Palace as well. Every point on the board counts for them. So yeah, they're turning around a little bit. It is still fairly close. Kind of between mid-table and the relegation fight, but I feel like, you likes if your Leicester's, Aston Villas, and Palace, they're probably all safe at the moment. Particularly with Leicester, they have a lot of games in hand, so they'll be safe as well. I mean, I would expecting them to kind of climb up the table, but they've had a bit of a poor season in general. What else? Chig is just gone out instead straight away. Leeds are going down. Absolutely. I do agree. I think Leeds are on the way down unless new manager can do something miraculous with them. It's 4 straight losses for Leeds at the moment. A negative 31 goal difference. The only team in the league that has a worse goal difference is Norwich. Yeah, they've conceded 60 goals, which is the worst in the Premier League. Yeah, I definitely feel that they're on the way down at this rate. 100%. It doesn't look good for them. If they can sort out the defensive issues, they might stay up. They just need to stop conceding. That figure could reach the hundreds before you know it. At this rate, they just can't keep conceding like they are. Brentford as well, also a team that have kind of started to creep into the relegation fight a little bit. The teams below them have all got games in hand on them, so they could very easily, once these teams have played their games in hand, be in the relegation zone. So this is where they've got to be a bit careful as well. Obviously Eriksen making it onto the pitch the other day, which was great. And hopefully he can improve their chances as well. They're not really scoring enough goals, in my opinion, to stay up. The next nearest team that has scored less than them is Burnley. So they do need a few more goals in the side. Burnley, in that mind, have also not scored enough goals, to be honest, to warrant staying up. But they've not conceded that many either. Out of all the teams that are kind of in the relegation fight, they have conceded the least. In fact, to find the team that has conceded less, or at least the same amount, is Brighton, who are in 10th. So, Burnley, actually, their defensive record is actually very good. They just haven't scored enough goals. So Burnley could be a team that still stays up, but I don't know what people's thoughts are on that one. Maybe not quite enough goals in it for them. Let's have a look at what people are saying. Brentford style at the start of the season, nobody could get hold of, but lack of goals costing them coming towards the end. Yeah, absolutely. They just haven't scored enough goals, as Jack Gleason just said there. Obviously, Tony obviously looked incredible at the start, but hasn't really kicked on in the Premier League, not fully anyway. He scored a few, but not really enough that's going to keep them out of the relegation fight at the moment, or get him a move to a better Premier League team at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see. Right, team, we've got another phone in at the moment. We do have Matt, who is I do believe he is a Rangers supporter, if I'm not mistaken. Rangers supporter. So we're gonna get Matt in and see what he's got to say. Mind as well, guys, if you are wanting to get involved in the phone in, just get yourself involved in the Discord, and we'll get you on the show. But here we go. Here comes Matt. Hello, Matt. How are we? Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. Not bad.
No bad at all, mate. Nice. You got about 8 or so minutes. What you wanted to share?
8 minutes, right. I wanted to talk about Scottish football alongside European football, and obviously the recent happenings that have gone on with Rangers and Celtic,
Yeah,
and of
definitely.
course,
I mean, like, just to start off with, do you feel that the title race is gone yet, or do you feel like you can pull it back?
no, I don't feel like it's over.
No, I don't.
Definitely no. We had a good chance at the weekend, and in my office, it's very split with Rangers and Celtic, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been getting it in the ear today because yes, it was a bottled chance to get back, pull back some points. I
Mm.
mean, fucking sort of 2-0 up at half time. You know what I mean? You should be
Yeah,
killing that
absolutely.
game off, but no, it's not over yet. We've still got more than enough time.
Well, yeah, I would agree as well. There's obviously we still got the split to happen as well. You've still got to play Celtic two more times.
Aye,
Uh,
there's a few more old firms, so it's. I mean, the fact that Celtic struggled so much at the weekend
mm-hmm,
with Hibs. I was speaking to somebody in my office, and I didn't actually watch the full game, but they were saying, I mean, Jota was absolutely terrible.
mm-hmm,
A complete contrast from his recent performances,
mm-hmm.
and they should have easily scored about 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah,
So that's a good sign in terms of Rangers, but I mean,
the
they're giving
worrying side
away.
for me about Rangers is Celtic no longer have Europe now. They don't have those lagging Thursday night fixtures that cause them to
Yeah,
have these performances on a Sunday, which, let's face it, is one of the big reasons why both Celtic and Rangers both lagged at the weekend there.
yeah,
Rangers still have that. You know, there's still the potential there. I mean, obviously, if I know I'd rather maybe be in Rangers' position, still in the Europa League, but it's still a potential kind of like hurdle that you've still got to get over, and it happens maybe a bit too often. You know, you go into a big European tie, and you are left kind of very stagnant going into the weekend fixtures. It happens nearly every time. I think this is where Livingston have also picked up points multiple times against Celtic and Rangers because of their Thursday fixtures as well.
they're caught lacking. I
Mm.
don't know. It's it's clearly with Rangers this season, of course, with the whole Dortmund situation. Let's be honest, nobody really expected what's happened to have happened.
Mm.
And I mean, even Big Bassy there in the chat, what he was saying about the Rangers could easily get a result as they did last Thursday, and then go and somehow drop points to Motherwell. How can you compare? Obviously, the team was different.
Mm.
As Lundstrom dropped back into defence, weird decision. We'll get into that another time. Not sure what Gio's doing there, but the fact that a team can play with the main sort of with the same core, the same sort of standard structure on a Thursday night, get a result with a packed Ibrox to then go away on a Sunday and throw away points like that is I don't understand how it can be so different, and
Mm. I mean, we pointed out
yeah,
as
I'm
well,
not sure.
Motherwell are in one of the worst. They are in the worst form in the league at the moment. Their point there was their first point, I think. Oh no, it wasn't the first point. Something it was, but yeah, they're in a very bad run of form. They were like fourth beforehand, and they're now just pummeling down the table at the moment. Free fall even. It's not a great position if you're a Motherwell supporter. But the fact that you end up drawing to them. I saw one of the goals, and I'm not gonna lie, what is
It's
McGregor
defensive
doing?
mistakes.
Yeah,
It's not. I mean, McGregor. I personally think he should be dropped now.
right,
I say that, and most Rangers fans will say that after the weekend result. But then he comes out of nowhere and saves you in the big games. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
it's more Connor Goldson. Something needs to happen with him.
Mm,
He's had too many chances now where yeah, he's made mistakes and then he's maybe recovered it the next game, but now it's
mm-hmm,
gone. I mean, he's got to take a step, pull him out for a few games.
mm-hmm.
I'd
It,
rather have Balogun and Big Phil next to each other.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
no,
uh,
absolutely. I mean, you've got McCory as well, who came in and did a decent job, I believe, in the couple games that he's played for Rangers. But it's whether or not he is ready to be number one. That is the real question, and whether or
uh,
not you need to bring in another keeper. I mean, let's face it, the Rangers have the pull to bring in a very decent keeper, but also you have the element where you want to keep it in house. You've got a Rangers boy, came for the youth system. right on the bench and who's ready to kind of maybe put his life on the line and go, So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of an element there as well. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to add there?
Not really. No, that was about it. The main point was
Mm.
somehow the difference between a Thursday night and a Sunday afternoon. It's just
Yeah, it is. It is.
mind-boggling.
It is kind of mad. Exactly. I mean, it's where, like I said, it's where Livingston have had their chances in the last kind of couple seasons, where we picked up points against both Hughes and Celtic at a Tony Mac. Not quite managing these results away, but it's where we've picked up the results of the weekend, and it's helped us massively. So, but at the same time, whenever Celtic and Rangers do well in Europe, it does filter down to the other teams in the league, particularly bringing in the high quality players like Aaron Ramsey, which, let's face it, was a huge. I mean, I do hear he's potentially going to be on the bench this weekend because he had another knock, so he could be coming back on again. But it's he's not been we'll have to wait and see what kind of impact Ramsey has in the title race going forward as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think you're the first Rangers fan. I've had couple of Celtic supporters, but I think you're the first
There's
Rangers.
more than enough of them, and
I know. I've got Ollie in the Discord as well, who's a Rangers fan, even if he isn't from Scotland wise. But you're not completely alone there. But anyways, Matt, thank you very much for jumping in the call. I do appreciate it.
yes,
Anyways, Rayo, look after yourself. Adios.
yes. See you
Rayo, cheers, Matt, again for jumping on, man. That was that was a good call. I mean, chat going absolutely mental, loving the fact that Matt was in. Absolutely. Let's kind of see what maybe a few people have kind of said in the chat. I mean, let's make sure first of all that I can actually read it out because some of it's maybe interesting to say the least about that. Yeah, I mean, Andy bringing up the fact that they still got Kyogo to come back, which is a huge one for Celtic. You get him in, and all of a sudden that Celtic team just ups massively in quality as well. Rangers got lucky against versus a dead German team. I don't know about that. They're missing their best player. I mean, yeah, okay. Dortmund were missing Haaland, and if Haaland was playing, it might have been a different result. But it's all might. Like that Rangers performance in general was massive, absolutely massive. Any opinions on Mitrovic not being good enough for the Prem, but too good for the Championship? Potentially a player that needs to move to like the German league or something like that. Needs to move abroad, and will find his feet there. That's maybe something that maybe needs to happen there because you need something that bridges that gap, and quite often abroad does. So that's where Mitrovic could actually work really well. I mean, he probably do very well. In the German league was one that I've just played it there. League One, the Liga potentially. Whether or not he do it in Europe, who knows? Whether or not he gets the European side, who knows? But yeah, Mitrovic, he's been very good in the Championship, but he's just never really done it in the Prem. I think he went on a massive goal drought when he was last in the Prem, so I don't think that's gonna happen there. Let's see. Anything else we got to add in the chat there? Not a huge amount that I'm seeing right now. But yeah, Mitrovic, obviously, I just don't feel he's quite good enough for the Prem, so I think he's definitely gonna need a move away if he's wanting to kind of do it in the world, one of the world's top leagues as well. I do want to touch on just slightly, right? I do want to touch on slightly about the handball incident at Manchester City. It was brought up early in the stream by Reese, who, I'm not gonna lie, it's a joke. It is, right? They released earlier on in the season the rules for handball and the fact it was from where the sleeve ends, right? Where the sleeve ends, that's handball. The ball is clearly like not on the sleeve, right? Maybe ever so slightly, like maybe at like a centimeter, if that. Like the rest of the ball is all on the lower part of the arm, and it should have been a handball. Absolutely. I cannot believe what happens if you wear long sleeves. I don't even know actually if there's actually thing for I don't even know if clubs even offer long sleeved anymore. I think they've just got to wear Under Armour if they want to wear long. That is a fair point. I don't think they offer long sleeve anymore because I don't remember ever seeing them on particularly from Nike point of view. I don't see them on the Nike website that you have the option for long sleeves. So but it's how VAR hasn't picked that up is ridiculous. It's so blatant and it's ridiculous. And Everton have also complained to the FA about that decision as well. I don't know how that's not happened. I mean, if you haven't seen it, go search on Twitter Rodri handball incident against Everton and have your own views on it as well. I'll post in the Discord as well. Everyone can have their thoughts on how blatant it is and how the fact that Everton haven't got something from that is ridiculous. But I also want to touch on the other side of Manchester. Manchester United drawing against Watford at the weekend there, giving up more points in this race for top four. Obviously, Watford gaining a very, very good point for them in the race to kind of get out of the relegation zone. But it's getting tight. It's getting very, very tight in that top four. If we're looking at the table now, we've got Manchester United on 47 points, West Ham on the same amount of games on 45, obviously only 2 points behind. Arsenal are the real talking point here, 2 points behind Manchester United, 3 games on hand. Now do not get me wrong, the games in hand that they have are big, right? They're big games, but they only need to win 1 out of the three games and they're above Manchester United, right? They only need to win 1 and then it's in their hands. And the run that Arsenal have after that is significantly easier, I would say. Now I am suggesting easier than what Manchester United have, because Manchester United still have, I believe, most of the teams in the top 8 still to play in the league, and that is a ropey circumstance to be in. This is where I still feel that Manchester United aren't going to finish in the top 4. It's these inconsistencies that are causing them on the downfall. And I'm not going to lie, how they didn't win against Watford is beyond me. The chances were the chances were ridiculous. They had every opportunity to take that, and they didn't. And I fancy Manchester United in all honesty to finish 5th, right? I think they'll finish above Tottenham. I just feel that they're gonna miss out on top 4. It's just one of those. Spurs, they could go on a really good run of form and climb up the table. They do have a habit of bottling, a mentality in the club of bottling. Obviously that result against Burnley has really done them damage. But at the same time, Arsenal only have 1 game in hand on Tottenham. There is 3 points behind, so they could lose 2 of those games and be fine as long as they win the 3rd one. But it's still a risky situation. You don't want to be doing that in the best circumstances. But I think I like the view. So David obviously is kind of pointing out he doesn't like Arsenal. Who, in your opinion, David, do you think is going to finish in the top 4? Are Chelsea still going to finish there? I mean, I would still think it's a probability, considering that they have 2 games in hand on Man United and are 3 points clear. They're on 50 points at the moment. You think Spurs are going to finish? No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. You know, Spurs. They do have I don't know what their games in hand are, but let me just have a quick look at Spurs and just see what fixtures they've still got to go at the moment. It's not going to bring up it. Yeah, it's not going to bring up the postponed ones there. I'm trying to see what their postponed fixtures were. So let's have a quick look at Spurs' run-in. So we have they play Everton in the league next on Monday, the 7th. Then they play Man United. That is a huge game. That is a huge game. That. Then Brighton, then West Ham. So kind of 2 big games, fairly close. Only 8 days in between them, and Brighton in between that as well. To be fair, Then Newcastle, which I think is going to be a difficult game because Newcastle in a very good run of form, unbeaten I think in the last 7 games. Then they've got Liverpool still to play, but yeah. All in all, it's not an awful run for them. It's not an awful run. I believe they still have Arsenal to play as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think they've still got Arsenal to play as well. Lack of creative midfielders will cost Spurs. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely would say so. They don't have... they're missing like an Eriksen character, to be honest. They're missing an Eriksen character at the moment in that team. They don't really play a system that suits that, but we've got to remember when Conte played that system at Chelsea, he had Jorginho who was able to act like that creative midfielder, but also had that decent defensive element at the same time. So there was both sides for him there, most definitely. Rightio. David, come on now. Winks and Højbjerg are nothing on Xhaka and Partey, and I don't even like Xhaka. I don't think we should be playing Xhaka, but Partey's better than both of them combined. Absolutely. Radio team, thank you very much for watching or listening to the Simply Sport Pod. Obviously, the second episode of the podcast series that we're doing at the moment. If you did enjoy it, please do let me know on Twitter at the Simply Pod, or if you're in YouTube comments, make sure you let me know there. Please do like and subscribe if you're new there. I do appreciate obviously everyone that has listened or viewed that we did so well in the last one. I'm hoping to maybe hit over the 100 mark for this podcast. So just share it if you can. It does help me out every opportunity we can. And if you want to get involved in the live recording of it as well, make sure you do check me out on twitch.tv/simplyspud. It does help out there as well. Obviously, we've had a massive debate in the chat tonight. Loads of people getting involved. Loads of people sharing their views and getting involved in the phone-ins as well, obviously. So, yeah, thank you everyone that got involved there. And thank you for also taking part and listening or watching the podcast. It means a lot. We are going to be doing another one, the Simply podcast, the general one that we do, or going to be doing going forward. I'm looking to maybe do that on the Thursday or Friday, so make sure you kind of check notifications to see when that's going to be coming out as well. I'm looking to have maybe an interview or two. I have a few debates on there as well, so stay tuned. Make sure you're checking us out on Twitter and seeing when that's going to be posted. But from me, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.